I'm really looking forward to chatting with you guys today about what we're seeing in the operations game and what we've learned from speaking with a ton of producers in the space in the last 6 months. So my name is Adam Cam, one of the co-founders here at ezops. Been on the project since the start, worn all the different hats from account management to sales, and now I look after the operations side of the business. It's been an absolute pleasure, to be honest, to work with so many different producers in the space that are ambitious and trying to grow how they go about operating and are willing to change and use technology to make great changes. The other gentleman I have on the call here is Mike Exner. He's our VP of sales. Mike's been with the company for a year now, is probably one of the smartest men I've ever met when it comes to understanding operations, and a great source on how ezops might fit into your organization. Let's kick this off here, guys. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is just kind of the status of where we're at. So none of this is going to be shocking to the people on the call. I'm sure you guys are all living it. First one being economical production. Thank goodness we finally got our back around, and the prices are a lot more favorable. But what does that mean really on the front line? So I think what it means is we see from a lot of people we talk to, just an increased pressure to keep production up. Not that that ever goes away, but the reality is there's monetary benefits now that are more significant than before for keeping production up. The other side of that is, we see some plays now that become economical again. So we have some operations teams that have to bring on some older assets that maybe were shut in or suspended for a bit of time, and now to operate them again. And all of us on the call probably know once you do that cycle, there's some difficulties to getting that stuff up and running again. So it's just another demand on your operations team. And often what we see there is we're doing that with the same team. We're not generally adding bodies to solve that problem. So that's one of the kind of major factors. Another one is emissions reductions. The game is changing. We just kind of have to call it what it is. The emission reporting stuff over the last 5 years has definitely grown. I think as a proud Canadian and a proud Canadian in the oil and gas space, I'm proud to say I think we're leading the charge on being efficient stewards of our environment. But what that does mean is the reporting factor of this is grown significantly. So we've seen whether it's a job for the frontline worker to gather some data, or someone from the engineering team to amass some data, or another person to submit that to a portal. Effectively, we've seen another job created here, another task to be done, and another data set that needs to be provided to the team. So last but not least, so couple the production, the good production, emission reduction, and then we've got labor shortage. So unfortunately, in that last downturn, we lost a lot of good people that switch industries. And unfortunately, I'm from the generation where not a ton of people got into oil and gas. So on the front line, what that means is you are going to have people aging out eventually here, and we don't seem to have the replacements at the volume that we wanted. You're going to have more green people on the front line in the cubbies, which is neither good nor bad. It just simply is. But what that does mean is, as an organization, we need to be able to figure out how are we going to pass this information on and not have brain drain from our community. So overall, fewer people doing more with less and faced with a ton of data and ton of turnover. So that's the kind of the pivotal moment that we see in the field right now. So I wanted to talk to you guys for a quick second about why we're in the room, why ezops, why are we emailing you, why are we trying to talk to you. So first and foremost, we came from the field. We were an operating company. So we've been out there, we've sweat it, we've bled it, we've ESD'd the plant at 2 a.m. We've been in the ditch. We really get operations and love operations. But I think what that's enabled for us to come from a service business into a SaaS business is just a deep understanding and respect for the end user and how we're going to be able to participate with them. So the ezops team, we have over 100 years of frontline experience, and that's growing because we keep adding people that have the frontline experience. We see big value in that. We were founded in 2019, and so that's when we made the switch from trying to have a proprietary software to going out to the masses and trying to improve our software by working with other producers, getting different angles on the big problems in the front line. So far, we're up to about 10% of the Canadian producers that we're working with. I'm really proud to say that, proud of our team, and really, enjoyed the growth that we've seen working with different plays, different geographies, different asset types. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is, just listening to those frontline teams and then making sure that we're supplying value to them. So in that whole value chain, what we've been able to do is participate in a big community. So the startup community in Alberta is strong. There's a lot of people listening in the oil and gas game, which I think is great. I think that'll continue. What it meant for us is we participated in programs like Propel, Scale Up Edge, Unique Ventures, basically got the support that we needed from the community to get off the ground. And then also that even came our way in the form of some funding from the Tier Economic Recovery Funds. We got about $1 million to build out an augmented intelligence platform that Mike's going to speak to a little bit later. Sorry. Really excited about where that one's going. I think at the end of the day, there's just a lot of improvement we can make on the front line and a lot of ways we can enable people to make good decisions. So to kind of frame this up, I want to talk a little bit about why we think operators are so valuable. So you've already heard me say that a few times here, but so if we want to go at it from a numeric sense, we did some digging a couple of years ago. There's about 55,000 frontline operators, dealing with 390 billion in revenue and roughly 83 billion in expenses. So when you math that out, you come out to about 1.5 million on the OPEX and 7.5 on the revenue. And on the screen, those are just numbers. They look big, and some of us, have massive budgets, some of us small budgets. But like from a software perspective, we see massive opportunity here because we're seeing, generally speaking, the people that are in these roles are not necessarily designed for like an in-office job or really financially savvy in the way that they're really focused on cutting or efficiency that way. They're there because they have a set of skills that help on the ground to keep the productions up and running. So what that means for us is a really big opportunity, because even a 15% haircut here on either side can make a really big difference to your bottom line. So that's why we think it's so important to focus on your operations team, because they are the tip of the spear. They are spending and they are saving. So it's really, how are we going to empower those people? So to frame it up, the operations problem as we see it today is a very, very interesting one. So over the last 5-10 years, we've seen some great jumps in the digital oil field and oil field technology, just full verbatim. There's been a lot of players come into the space. The tech is improving. I think the willingness to try stuff is improving, and I think people are experimenting, which is great. You got to experiment before you can get to results. So we've seen gains in automation, asset management, controls, IoTs has grown significantly. The amount of data, and not just data, but good data and insight that we now have available for our frontline teams is incredible. And they're not just coming from ezops. There's a number of places we're getting these kind of insights from. So that's on one side of the fence. I think that's great, and it's been awesome to watch and be a part of. On the other side of the fence, we have our guys and gals in the coveralls, and that's not going away. We need them. They're a very important part of the engine here, but they're trying to do things too, right? So we have, training, compliance, shift logs, inspections, procedures, planning. So we have all of that kind of human element to this going on that actually is quite complex. And that's why very much so everyone on the call here would probably we would prefer a 15-year operator over a green one. There's a lot to learn on the human activity that needs to be done to be an efficient well operator and an efficient team member. So what we have here, we have on one side, we have all of this good insight. And on the other side, we have all these people trying their best to, make great decisions. But the execution gap, it seems to me anyways, that it's just been horribly missed. We have no way for someone to look at all of these different insights, because they're often coming from multiple programs, and apply that to how they're going to plan their day. How am I actually going to be different today based on the insight that my company has supplied me? So that's the execution gap that ezops is set out to solve and has solved, because we think it's so critically important that you got to take the cognitive load off the operator about how he goes about planning his day. So what does it all kind of mean, the execution gap? So what actually happens if we, example being the status quo, where we don't have a tool to help us in that space? So I've been in this seat here before, quite literally. You can see the operator is looking at some SCADA charts, just trying to figure out what is going on production wise. So, that's not a bad way to plan our day. Where's the production out? Where isn't it? On the shelf, you can see some fluid life samples. There's another job to be done there, right? We're trying to do our sampling. I can see he's got some compliance paperwork in front of him. He's got his email up. So he's got all of these sources feeding into him, aside from the regular, trying to be safe, trying to be, do the right thing by my boss, all of that stuff going into how that person's going to plan the day. The reality is how Adam would plan that day is grossly different than how Mike would plan that day, which is probably grossly different than how your best operator would plan their day. So that's scary stuff, guys. At the end of the day, that's dollars on the table when we're not all playing under the same operational playbook because we have no way to communicate about it. So what it all means is it leads to operational risk because we have people that are so focused on trying to make a great day. At the end of the day, operator error is the leading cause of significant plant incident. I've lived it. I've seen it. Some operators that I've worked with that I really looked up to, that I thought were excellent mechanical operators. When you're busy and you're trying to do a ton of different things and you have too much cognitive load, it's easy to make mistakes. And let's call a spade a spade. Mistakes are very expensive at this point in the game, and we can't be tripping over our own feet. So that's what it all adds up to, is an increased level of risk, even though everyone's trying their best. So moving on from kind of the status quo, let's get into kind of where does ezops want to fit and how they might help you. So our full vision and value system is all built around one really simple idea, and that's equipping operators to perform at their best, kind of full stop. So there's a number of things that go into that, and a number of reasons why we're very passionate about it. But the first one that comes to mind for me very much is they're just such an opportunity there to have your teams become aligned and understand how they're going to participate in the corporate vision. So that leads into the point of clarity on goals. So I want to tell you guys a little bit of a story that we did a case study, and just kind of studying what people think in the oil field, like what is good performance? Because it's a really interesting question when you ask your frontline operator that. So we studied quite a few of them, and I would hear two kinds of answers with this. Answer one would be, production up, OPEX down. It's a pretty good generic answer. I don't think any producer on the call is going to say, I don't want that. But the reality of what that translates into, how should I act today that is different than yesterday based on those parameters, is tricky. It's hard to do. And so the other answer that we heard very much was, I just want to keep my boss happy. And that's a scary statement. It's very true. I can understand where they're coming from. But if that's your sentiment, there isn't clear communication on what happy is. First off, we got to get really clear on what that means. And at the end of the day, if that sentiment's there, then probably we're just trying to keep the boss's boss happy. And again, all of that needs to be unpacked and clear. So we understand exactly how, our corporate initiatives or directions are going to feed into our enterprise. So ezops first wants to make really clear on goals. Second one, data-driven direction. So every software company is going to hit you with the DDD, the data-driven direction. Well, what does that actually mean, and how do we actually do it? So for ezops, that means, we need to figure out what needs to be done. Just about everything task-wise in the oil field can be automated. We know what we need to do for preventative maintenance. We know what we need to do to leave a well site in good condition. From a compliance angle, we know what we need to do out there. We need to do this inspection at this frequency. From a serviceability point, preventative maintenance, there's all of these elements that can go into that can be planned for what does the job entail to take care of this asset to keep it producing at its best. So really what we need is clarity and transparency on that, because I think everyone has slightly different styles and ezops wants to support that. But once that's clear and we understand the data behind it, we can start making some great decisions and to help our teams learn into what is the best decision to make. So the third and final part of our vision is reward for taking action. So at the end of the day, the blunt truth here is we have people in this system. Okay, so when we have people in the system, we want to train them, help them, reward them to understand when we're doing a good job. And I find a lot of the oil field reward systems are quite broken. A little bit of even just acknowledgement can go a long way. And so there's a lot of like, leave them alone, don't talk to him in the oil field. But the reality is, in a system like this, we have a vision and clear operating goals. We understand the environment holistically, and then we want to reward people for moving through it correctly. So once we have that completed, we have this perfect loop of how we can possibly improve our operations team and get really clear on our outcome and our intentions. So what does all that mean, like physically, to an operator, frontline operator? I'm trying to figure out my day. So this is an example of one of our dashboards that we use. We have a ton of these that do some kind of similar stories, but let's unpack this dashboard just a little bit. So up in the top corner there, I've got recommended locations. So already we're taking the cognitive load of saying, I think you should go here. And that's really important, because if you're computing even a 60 well field, there's a number of permutations, combinations that can come out on where are you going to go. And so the next step is like, go here, why? And then that's a really important part too, because I think this algorithm that people have it's fair to say that, a 1-year operator and a 5-year operator have a different algorithm for how about they decide where I'm going to go today. So ezops eliminates all of that decision-making factors. So we're saying go here. We're predicting a production loss of X. So we're considering production. You have a tank reading that needs to be done. We're anticipating you could be out, or there could be something we need to know. And there's all these other urgent items, let's call it inspections, all of that stuff that I talked about being automated. So whether that's scheduling, maintenance, production management, compliance management, all these things that we're aware of, let's bake that right into the cake, guys. I think that's the easiest way to do it, so everyone can see why we're saying go where. The next bit is the routing. So routing is really important at the end of the day. If you don't, for some operations, I get it, it's pretty straight line, but there's a lot of them, I think we can all agree on the call, where it isn't. So how do we get our guys in the most efficient way from A to B, and especially in this day and age, if we need to take an ESG focus, how do we pull that lever? And ezops is going to let you do that, because we can say, okay, let's make this the shortest trip possible with the most points we can gain. Then also down at the bottom here, we're just trying to, let the operator know the status. How is it looking? Because at the end of the day, we need the operators to look at this and use this and allow them to keep their dignity, to still, modify their route in their day based on what they understand and know. So I think the perfect marriage here, guys, is very much take all of the knowledge from the computer, take all of the knowledge from the human, smash that together and come out with what is hopefully an optimal day. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass the mic over to Mike here to go through a couple of more specific case studies to get you a little bit better of an understanding about how the rubber meets the road here and how we go about making this sort of optimization.
Thanks so much, Adam. So we know what matters to producers is proof that technology works in your world. And I'm going to share 2 case studies and some detail on how ezops works. So first is a case study around compliance. One of our customers is an oil-focused E&P company that came to ezops looking to grow from about 7,000 to 20,000 barrels of annual production. They were going to do this largely by making acquisitions. So they needed more from their operations team, but were already struggling to make compliance management strong and consistent. So in the field, they tried various paper-based forms in Excel. But the field guys were unclear what compliance tasks to do and when to do them. So different team members would fill in data differently. Some forms didn't even make it back, and every month data was getting missed. So for the foreman, that meant catch up at the end of the month, driving to different sites, trying to get missing data or get the guys to fill it in properly. And that meant reporting frustration for head office as well, of course. So that which ops management heard about, of course, as well too. Compliance leaders were spending hours trying to get data into shape for reporting, and that left executives feeling low trust in the compliance overall. So with ezops in place, the company was able to manage compliance in 15% less time with true reporting accuracy. So how did they do this? Well, the field team now had an automated schedule with tasks and alerts and guidance on what data to gather and how. The foreman no longer gets surprised by data gaps at month end. In fact, he actually has real-time visibility in the data being submitted, as well as alarms on everything overdue so that he can follow up immediately. The same real-time visibility was there if any incidents occurred. So compliance leaders now have automated reports at month end with data in place, saving hours and hours each month, giving head office much greater confidence in compliance management at the front line. So here's an example of the compliance schedule the oil-focused company uses now. On the left, activity by rep by location and clear color indication of urgency. So right here, you've got yellow is the upcoming work, green is overdue, and dark blue is completed work. So clear indication of what's done and who's accountable. So this one here is how foremen can pull inspection reports. It's easily filtered and as specific as required. You can filter by field, by run, by plant, by location, or set no filter at all. This is providing with real-time visibility for the foreman. So this second case study is about a customer that's highly efficient natural gas producer. They were looking to ramp up activity without hiring more people onto their operations team, but could see their frontline teams were already struggling to make consistent decisions on how to best contain costs. Their field teams were drowning in fragmented data. For example, they had separate scheduling data for trucking, for maintenance, for inspections, and for compliance. With fragmented data, field reps were making multiple trips to sites to perform different tasks. So there was no smart monitoring of tank levels to help coordinate hauling at optimal times either. And early on, we detected issues with overspending on chemicals. So for the foreman and management expected as much. There wasn't precise data on the chemicals needed. So that meant the chemical volumes were often higher than necessary. And that was also impacting equipment maintenance costs and truck hauling as well. So with the head office, the same compliance issues were being felt similar to our last customer. And field teams wouldn't consistently enter data. These data gaps required hours of cleanup at month end again. With ezops in place, the producer was able to reduce OPEX 18% and reduce their carbon emissions by 33% with less hauling and drive time. The field teams now have automated schedules that group activities by location, and the same scheduling system ensures that maintenance is scheduled when parts are available on site to reduce return trips to the field. So there's less downtime, faster task completion, and about 300,000 kilometers saved in drive time over 2 years. The operations teams also have precise chemical management. So with data-driven precise volumes of chemicals used and predictive scheduling of hauling for full loads, together saving the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. And on the compliance front, head office has month-end reports that are now automated and accurate, and field teams see compliance activity and alerts as part of their automated schedule with guidance on what to track and where. So here's an example of a schedule their field team sees. So color-coded again by urgency, and only showing events that are important at that time. So all the regular schedules are running in the background and would populate when the lists are required. So, and beyond schedules and activity status, ezops integrates with Power BI to answer key questions. So here you see a query on pump injections of chemicals, analyzing optimal levels. So just one of dozens of the preloaded reports you can see. So for producers who are a little bit further ahead on their digitalization journey, the next level of ezops has potential to save ops teams not just drive time or production time, but go beyond efficiency activity schedules by factoring in millions of data points per minute. So ezops prioritization engine can give even better visibility into priority tasks because it combines 3 types of data. You're combining your external data, scheduled events, and ad hoc events. So with millions of field data points that no human could ever compute, using machine learning, we can compute the most efficient task list and route for an operator to take. Scheduling field operations with this intelligence can now produce twice the time impact and about 30% fewer kilometers in studies that we've completed. So here's how simple AI-driven prioritization can look for an operator. ezops computes the most efficient task list and route for an operator to take according to your top goals. So whether you want the lowest emission route or if you're seeking to maximize production, we can sort it out either way that you want. So ezops architecture is specifically designed to connect to third-party applications to support the best informed data-driven decisions. Most commonly, we connect with production accounting, sometimes emission systems or pipeline operations, to name a few. Usually that connection is through our API, but we can adapt to our customers' data and app environments. So we know there's a lot of software out there and producers are at different points of adoption. So we're glad to learn what you have and advise on how we can add value or integrate. So what I hope has become clear in those case studies is that our technology is a cloud-based platform dedicated to helping you operate efficiently. What sets our platform apart is how we're innovating. And we're bringing in AI-driven intelligence to predict the right daily activity for operations teams. We're providing one single source of the industry's most usable operations data. I'm going to pass this back over to Adam for a minute, and we can start to close us out.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think that the optimization stuff that we've been tinkering with there has been a really great leap, because I think at the end of the day, that execution gap is real. So we did do a study in-house, and those that 2x was, we proved that out to be true 3 or 4 different times. So that's someone with the field data capture system that has no way to plan his day versus something with the perfect route. Because the reality is most people do have some sort of field data capture and collect that information. But if you don't organize that or give that back to the people in a way that they can do something with it, at the end of the day, it's an anchor, not a leader. So anyways, moving forward, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about our path to adoption. So what's different about ezops is very much, coming from the field. We want to maintain that, and we want to help your field grow. So how do we do that? Like, how does that actually look at the end of the day? Sometimes this sounds really scary because, you're coming to us on the journey. Sometimes you're at the end, sometimes you're at the start. But really, step one for us is gather the digital information. So that's understanding what do you actually have for an asset set out in the field. And so that step for a lot of people is tricky. A lot of people struggle with inventory. They don't know what's there, and they don't know what frequency they need to do things about it. That's not to say someone in the organization doesn't know, but generally the clarity isn't there. So that step of gathering the information is big and critical, and often very valuable for the producer, because then we get really clear on what we actually have and what we expect to see. The next step is create the digital model of the asset. And that's where the ezops team setup team kicks in. So we've got a 5-person setup team that specializes in customer success, and most of them are ex-operators. So what that means for the producers, we speak the language. We understand exactly what it is that we're talking about and what you're talking about, and we can make that perfect model that the field personnel can resonate with. Because at the end of the day, what this is a digital model of the field, and then that's got to be mirroring reality, right? If that's offside, it's off-putting as an operator. You're saying, "Will they even care about me? I can't even get the model right." So, we got to work hard as a team to drive that across the line, and ezops takes that weight off your shoulders. We spend all the time to look after that. Next bit is in-person training. So I'm a big advocate of training and in-person training, because the reality here is we're all on a team trying to hit some serious objectives here. That's why we play in this industry. And so what that means for us is we want to come out, learn the problems, and understand what it is that your operators are struggling with. Because I think this whole path to adoption, or people get very caught up on adoption, but the reality is adoptions were really simple. If you can do something for someone that adds value, they will use your software. And I think where a lot of people have really gotten offside is if the whole point of your software is to empower someone down the line, the person on the front end of that feels that, they understand that, then they say, this isn't for me, I'm not gaining value. Like, some people are big enough to say, okay, I understand, I want to be a cog and help. But the reality is, if you can drive value for that person and the next person down the value chain, that's where you get the winning recipe to make this thing go round. And we care very deeply about that. So that's something that we have to spend the time to discover together. Step 4, troubleshooting and adjustment. The reality is, this isn't one of those things where we just toss you off the deep end. Very much ezops is with you for the whole journey to try and make sure that this thing fits you like a glove as you grow and evolve. So what that means for us on the back end, we have a lot of tracking. So we're able to see, how is the usage looking? Are we seeing the right number of users? Are we seeing the right number of events for what we're trying to do for our key KPIs? So it allows our setup team to intervene quickly, often months before, like a month before other people are starting to see this kind of, oh, we're seeing a slight data cap. That doesn't happen with ezops. We're in there early and often to try and make sure everything is straight, because often it's as simple as a miscommunication or maybe a misunderstanding. So a lot of that stuff we need to take focus to clear up and clean up. So what that means is by week 5, we normally see 100% adoption and people starting to realize some of those time savings and new efficiencies. And really at the end of the day, what we're all steering for is, we want to get on the PowerPoint slide deck for each company saying we've reduced OPEX. Everyone wants to be a part of that. And so we take that very seriously. And step 6, which is one that I really enjoy, once we have a digital model, once we have a users group that has accepted the platform and understands how they fit into it, that's where the real fun starts, because you can start collecting a bunch of data sets that could help you in an optimization sense. And there's tons of them, guys. Every operation is a little bit different, but the ones that Mike has shown you today, just the operator routing, that's a big one. Third-party trucker routing, that's a big one. Third-party contractors, another big one. There's a number of services we can track a little bit better. So how you do that is at some point you got to gather the information. ezops is an enabling tool for that. And then you need some smart minds to look at that. And thankfully, it's not me or Mike, but we have a couple of data scientists on the team that will help you out solving these problems, even from a mathematical point. So I think it's really important then to just kind of let the community know when we enter into these relationships, we're not just looking to give you what ezops is. We really want to fit into the problem that you have. And for some people, that's a problem set that we fully understand and execute perfectly today. And for others, it's that. Plus, we have a very unique optimization opportunity that we want to capitalize on. And you should. That's how you become a competitor in this, strong competitor in this space. So what I'm going to leave you with on the adoption side, is just a quick quote from one of our most recent rollouts, an area foreman. Implementing ezops is not difficult. Even guys new to technology pick it up quick. The software keeps the team and compliance on track, even as we grow through acquisitions. So definitely from my relationship with that foreman, I think if another thing he would say is having an operational backbone and being able to communicate clearly with his team almost eliminated his daily nitpicking management that he had to do to make sure his compliance was on side. So now, instead of saying, hey, where is this? What's the status on that? Wasting that kind of time, he's growing the team's skills, and we're trying to solve the real problems. Because most of the time, the chasing paperwork is not the real problems du jour, right? We have such a dynamic environment out there. Guys can't be bothered with that kind of stuff. We got to eliminate that administrative burden and put it back on the team in a way that everyone can participate and grow the model. So with that said, I'm going to kind of, if there's any questions, now would be a great time to throw them in the Q&A thing. But what I'm going to do is leave you with a few more quotes. So one of the VP productions we worked with said, ezops has allowed us to streamline our operations, including preventative maintenance, reduce our time to track down and organize services. So I think what I want to leave you guys with is there's a number of ways that we can optimize in the field. So ezops has a ton of modules to tackle all the different ones. And we also want to play nice in the sandbox. If you guys have already solved a few different problems, we want to come in and help you with the rest of them. So I see we got a couple questions going here. So just give me a second. Okay, what do we got?
Oh, I see one here, Adam.
Okay.
This is coming in from Carl. How do companies typically trial, and do you adopt for one field team or asset? How's that work?
Great question. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of no risk trials, because at the end of the day, this is a marriage and you can enter and exit a marriage. Unfortunately, that's the state of the world. But what does it actually look like? We normally like to take a small area, so 100 wells, 200 wells, whatever a small field is for you guys, a couple of facilities. And then we want to implement ezops to its fullest in that area, train up the team in that area to make sure we fully understand your operation, because every operation is unique. We've definitely come to learn that. And so make sure that we fit you like a glove and that we've ironed out any of the translation kinks, because I think that the truth about it is the jargon, the diction, and how we all talk about this stuff, there's always communication gaps, and you got to get that ironed out before you roll this sort of stuff out on a massive scale and get the buy-in. So we like to do it and normally we try and do it in a 2 to 3 month cycle. And so far we have a 100% adoption rate. So everyone that has touched it sticks with it. And I think that really speaks to our customer success team, because that team really cares about getting it right and doing it honest by the frontline operator. And then down the line, doing it honest by, the secondary value contributors. So a lot of that frontline data, it needs to go somewhere, right? We want to empower the next job to be done. So whatever that next job is. Thanks. So I see one, Mike, I'll throw your way, coming in from Ian. How does the ezops pricing model work where a smaller, ambitious producer, and some of the leading tech can be beyond us?
Sure, yeah, great question. So ezops has their pricing laid out based on volume thresholds. So based on whether you're a small operator or a large operator, we're going to find ways to work with you to suit your budget.
Awesome. Okay. Just looking over the couple of the rest of the questions. I think we kind of covered. I think I'll tackle this one. We've been given a corporate directive to operate by exception. How does that fit in? And that's a great question. Operate by exception is a pretty big black box that a lot of us are trying to get into. And I think ezops has really unlocked it. And what I think about that is, operate by exception entails a couple of layers, right, guys? So it entails, understanding a frequency. So ezops does that. It understands our algorithm can figure out by both the GPS stamp and the activities done on site, whether someone's actually been on site. We do set a parameter of how frequently we want people to visit sites. So, you guys as an organization need to figure out your risk profile. So, we need to go to certain types of site 3 days, 14 days, 20 days. We just set that up in the software. But then you need to automate everything else, because the important part of ops by exception, from my perspective, is it's not so much, it's definitely you got to go in frequently. But when you're there, you need to be empowered to do everything that might come up to be done in the gap that you're going to be there. So again, using the example of that 14-day schedule, if I'm going today, I have something due in 6 days, you need to know about that and you need to do it now, because otherwise you're not operating by exception one bit. So ezops can empower you to do that, and they are great inputs into that routing algorithm that really empowers that operations by exception by getting everything in one clear work package of what's asking to be done, and then tracking our frequencies, and then we can tinker and adjust as we figure out what feels good and what doesn't. So I think the important part to take away from that is everyone has a slightly different algorithm about all this stuff, about what they value and what they need to value. And ezops takes that into account with you when we onboard you to try and figure out, exactly what is the priority for you guys for that algorithm, how we might make that work. Okay, I think that kind of covers her for questions. So I think from there, I just want to thank everyone for their time. I was going to leave us on this last slide. Anything else on your end, Mike, you wanted to bring up before we let the people go here for lunch?
Not too much. Just thanks for coming, guys. Our team is growing pretty quick, but we do still have some limitations on how many we can implement each quarter. So we're eager to help as many producers as we can in Q1, and would love to learn more about your needs. So watch your inbox for the webinar recording, and feel free to share it with your team, and reach out if you'd like to schedule a demonstration.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, the next step on the call here, if any of this has piqued your interest, let's get under the hood. Let's have a look. Let's take it. Let's have a demo and hear about where you guys are trying to go operationally. Okay, I see. How well would ezops work with a single fixed facility such as a refinery or topping plant? Great question. So ezops, the way we break it out, we have facilities and we have wells. And so you're going to see a slight differentiation in what's on a facility, but often what it literally means is more reading sheets, more schedules, more inspections, some sort of angles of productions. And all of that, again, using a very similar interface, so it's very comfortable for the operator. So we do have some clients that use this just predominantly in the facilities. And really what we found is one of the big wins for them, besides having a digitalized logbooks for maintenance, that's a big one. Enhancing the maintenance scheduling, using our predictive software to look at what the next year is going to cost. So we can at least go in and say comfortably, okay, I have equipment A running at this runtime. We anticipate that means next year it's going to have this packages of services. Let's put some pricing to that and pull that out. So we have a couple of foremen there that task used to take them 2 or 3 days to try and gather all the intel on this. And for all of our plant using ezops guys, it's a 3-minute button click, and we can have a pretty good projection on where we're going. So it works really well for facilities as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for that last question. So